Sai Ram. I'm sure you would have experienced on many occasions how Swami makes seemingly casual and insignificant statements, but those very statements hold great meaning for they contain the truths of life. It was during a Trai session where Swami had invited all the students and teachers into his residence at Bangalore in Vrindavan, and there was a session in progress. Swami was seated on that beautiful jhula, the swing, the ornate swing, and Swami was conversing with the students. He then looked at one of the students who was seated about 15 or 20 rows behind, and Swami beckoned to him and said, "Why are you sitting so back? Come front and sit here, sit near me." This student was thrilled at this wonderful opportunity, because only a few students get to sit at Swami's lotus feet because of space constraints, and now Swami was himself inviting him. So this student got up immediately and began to cross over all the rows of students, And as he came closer to Swami, the packing of students became more and more dense, because at Swami's lotus feet, though there is space for only one, 3 people will be seated. That's how it is, because nobody minds discomfort for the sake of being close to his feet. So as he came closer, it got dense and very dense. Finally, around the 3rd row is where he could make some space, so he sat down there. Then Swami looked at him and said, "You came so far from there. Just one more step and you could have reached me." This boy was sharp. Immediately he got up, crossed over one more line and just plonked himself right at Swami's lotus feet. Having come to know of Swami, having got to have seen his photographs or videos, let us not stop till we reach him. And then it is very simple if we want to reach him, because as Swami says, take one step towards me and I will take 100 towards you. Here's a story that I read from Professor Kasturi's magnificent magnum opus book, Loving God, that teaches us and inspires us on both these messages. It was sometime in the 1970s, probably 1974, 75 or 76, when Sri M.M. Pinge, the then state president of Maharashtra in India for the Sathya Sai organizations, invited Professor Kasturi over to the state to travel along in a yatra throughout the state, starting from Bombay, going all around and coming back to Bombay, where Professor Kasturi would speak to the devotees on different aspects of the avatar. And thus began a 10-day whirlwind tour. Professor Kasturi narrates amazing things that happened during this tour, but the most memorable one happened in the city of Pune, when Professor Kasturi was called to address a gathering at the Armed Forces Training Center, which today is called the National Defence Academy at Khadakwasla in Pune. Now, in this National Defence Academy, his host was Col S Bhonsle, an ardent devotee of Bhagawan, who wished that Swami's translator and biographer speak to all the cadets and armed forces there. Now, after Professor Kasturi's speech, this Col Bhonsle got up to speak, and what experience he shared left an indelible impression in the heart of Professor Kasturi, and I'm sure it will do the same to all of us. Col S Bhonsle shared an experience that occurred when he was posted to head the cantonment in the Kulu region of Himachal Pradesh state in India. So there, this cantonment is a self-contained area. It has a school, a hospital, everything, It is possibly the precursor to modern day gated communities. So here, he noticed that one primary school teacher had been missing from action for almost 3 days. Not only had she not attended the school, she was nowhere to be seen in the cantonment as well. On the 4th day, when she turned up to school, the story that she said wasn't very happy. It was a tragic one. She had been to Chandigarh to a top hospital there where she had been diagnosed with cancer. And the doctors said that she needed an immediate surgery which would cost a lot if she hoped to live. This teacher was very depressed. That is when Colonel Bhonsle thought he could shoot down two birds with one stone. Now, speaking of which, shooting down two birds with one stone, it reminds me of a lovely incident in my own life. You can see that at this link above. Now, Colonel Bhonsle had just got to know about Sri Sathya Sai Baba by reading the book by Howard Murfitt, Sai Baba, Man of Miracles. He was entirely skeptical about this Sai Baba. He felt that this is all the delusions of an Indophile. This Australian citizen had come to India and gotten crazy. That's what he thought. But here, he thought, is an opportunity to test out. So he told this teacher, go to Puttaparthi in South India. There they say there is a modern day Christ. He can cancer your cancer just with his words. So go and fall at his feet and your cancer will get cured. This is amazing when a devotee states it with full conviction and faith. But here was a person saying it as a test, a challenge to Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. But the teacher could not make out this difference, and so she began her travel. She traveled by train for 2000 kilometers from Himachal Pradesh to Bombay. She traveled to Bombay because she wanted her sister also to join in her journey to Puttaparthi. From there, both these ladies traveled more than 1000 kilometers to reach Puttaparthi. After 2-3 days of such travel, weary, tired and hopeful, when they reached Prashanthi Nilayam, they got to know that Swami was not at Prashanthi Nilayam. Oh my God, where is he? They were told that Swami was in Madras. They decided not to give up, and so they travelled another 350 to 400 kilometers from Puttaparthi to Madras. As they alighted in the Madras Central Railway Station, they were happy that every taxi driver there seemed to know where Swami was staying, which bungalow Swami was residing in. So they got into one of the taxis and went to the bungalow, and lo and behold, they were in for another big disappointment because Swami was not there either. They were informed that Swami had left to deliver a talk at the Sindhi Hall. Oh God, now we have to travel to the Sindhi Hall. Not wanting to give up, having travelled this far, like how Swami told that boy, you have come this far, don't give up at the last step. They decided that we will travel to the Sindhi Hall, but then they heard discouraging news again. A gentleman from Hyderabad, a Parsi gentleman who had travelled to Madras to have Swami's darshan, he told them that, there will be huge crowds there. If we can get to see Sai Baba, get to see Swami, that itself will be great. And the two ladies found that that was indeed true. Even the road leading to the Sindhi Hall was jam-packed with two-wheelers and four-wheelers. There was no way their car could even go near the hall. They had to get down and walk the distance. And somewhere far behind they were seated, and they saw this being clad in orange come on stage and start delivering a talk. He was discoursing on prema and dharma, and as the loudspeakers blared out loud the divine voice and divine words, they felt very painful on the ears of this primary school teacher. She began to get very upset and angry. Having travelled for 4 days non-stop, tired, exhausted, fatigued, hoping desperately for a cure, they were not even getting to go near Swami, forget falling at his feet and asking for a cure. First, she got very angry on this Col S Bhonsle for having made them do so much of strenuous exertion. Slowly her anger transferred from Bhonsle to Howard Murphy, the one who had made Bhonsle suggest this to her. She started cursing him, and finally from there her anger shifted to Swami himself. You make us travel this entire distance and this is what you do to us, discoursing on prema and dharma? How will that help me? I am dying here and this is what you are just talking and talking and talking. And in that anger, it soon turned into anguish. She broke down, began sobbing uncontrollably. And beside her, the sister too did not know what to do. She too began to weep. And thus, having travelled for more than 140 hours, two sisters were sitting in the Sindhi hall somewhere at the back and weeping and sobbing. As the discourse got over and Swami left, a thin, frail gentleman walks up to them calling out, Chandigarh, 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 Chandigarh. And when he spots these two ladies, he tells them, you must be the two sisters from Chandigarh. And they say, yes, I mean, one was from Bombay, but yes, Chandigarh, that is where the hospital was, right? And then the man says, who is the teacher who has come from the hospital at Chandigarh? Wow. And once she identifies herself, the man comes over and hands over Vibhuti packets. And he says, Bhagawan said that these Vibhuti packets must be given to the primary school teacher coming from the hospital in Chandigarh. Please take this. And she asks, what should I do with this? He said, strangely, Swami said, ask her to consult with Shivaji on what dosage and prescription this Vibhuti she must take. And who is Shivaji? Swami did not say. But he has given these Vibhuti packets to be given to Shivaji. The two women were confused. Shivaji, he was the one who initiated or began the great Maratha dynasty. At one point in time, almost the entire political India today was ruled by the Marathas. But that Shivaji was in the 18th century. Anyway, they were very happy that Swami had responded to them miraculously. They travelled back to Kulu valley to the cantonment. And on the way, they stopped at Chandigarh. And the miracle of miracles. What do you say? There was no trace of cancer in this lady at all. The miracle had worked and now they were shedding tears of joy. The Vibhuti had not even been necessary. That's why, dear brothers and sisters, this prasadam, this Vibhuti, all these physical objects or physical manifestations of Swami's grace are only for our satisfaction. Swami can and will do anything without anything. He is that nothingness from which everything comes, from which the Big Bang has happened. So, with excitement and joy, the teacher now reported back to duty, because that is what Swami had said. Yes, I forgot to mention that. The gentleman said, Swami says you can go back and report to duty. That is what she did. And then she met Col S Bhonsle and told him this amazing story. And in the end she said, only one thing still stupefies me. I don't know who this Shivaji is. And even as she's saying this, she sees the Colonel breaking down, shedding profuse tears. He says, my dear sister, I'm Col S Bhonsle. Nobody knows here, but that S stands for Shivaji. Colonel Shivaji Bhonsle. Here were two sisters who did not hesitate to take that final step. And here was a man, a colonel in the army who was a skeptic, but nevertheless he had taken the first step. Though it had been possibly in a critical manner, he definitely did take the first step. And Swami had travelled all the way from Madras to Kulu valley, calling him Shivaji, sending him the Vibhuti Prasad. That was the transformation, that was the moment that melted the heart of Colonel Shivaji Bhonsle, after which he became a sworn devotee of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. So dear brothers and sisters, if we feel that we are getting to know Swami just now, there is no need to despair. All we need to do is just take one step towards him and he will take 100 towards us. And having taken that one step and having travelled and continuing to travel towards him, let us not give up. Let us hold on in determination. Either the Lord must appear before us or we must ourselves collapse in our efforts in trying to reach him. One of these two results alone must happen. Then only can we call ourselves Sai devotees. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.